I'm in the kitchen. Maybe Chani can help out.
Chani Mataji might be cooking, so that's why I'm asking you.
Yeah. Okay. I'm also in the kitchen today, but okay, let me
You
just.
are in the kitchen today as well.
myself.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll just find the place and do it.
Okay.
Yeah, Haribo. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to God. Om Mirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshuran Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manu Avistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Yadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Pada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakan Vidanscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prashanatma Prabhu, for doing the Manglacharan so nicely. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you, Mataji, for joining in and giving your precious time to us. Mataji, please accept Dandavat Pranam from everybody who have joined the group and are about to join. Mataji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 2, Chapter 7, and the text for today is text 50. So over to you, Mataji. Kindly let us know if you wanted us to read or do anything. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to do service. Again, I'm greatly indebted to all of you for giving me this opportunity. And I start the session by praying offering my obeisances to my Guru and to all the Acharyas and the Lordships and all of you for giving me this opportunity. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So I'll read the text, Mataji, and the purport. So we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 7, verse 50. Soyam te pihitastata bhagavad vishvabhavana samasena harirnanyad anyasmat sadasachayat. Translation. My dear son, I have now explained in brief the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is creator of the manifested worlds. Without him, Hari, the Lord, there are no other causes of the phenomenal and nominal existences. Since we generally have the experience of the temporary material world and conditioned souls trying to lord it over the material worlds, Brahmaji explained to Naradeva that this temporary world is the work of the external potency of the Lord, and that the conditioned souls struggling here for existence are the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. There is no cause for all these phenomenal activities but him, Hari, the Supreme Lord, who is the primeval cause of all causes. This does not mean, however, that the Lord himself is distributed impersonally. He is aloof from all these interactions of the external and marginal potencies. In the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, it is confirmed that by his potencies alone, he is present everywhere and anywhere. Everything that is manifested rests on his potency only, but he, as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is always aloof from everything. The potency and the potent are simultaneously one and different from one another. One should not deprecate the Supreme Lord for the creation of this miserable world, just as one should not blame the king for creating a prison house in the government. The prison house is a necessary institution of the governmental establishment for those who are disobedient to the laws of the government. Similarly, this material world, full of miseries, is a temporary creation of the Lord for those who have forgotten him and are trying to lord it over the false manifestation. He, however, is always anxious to get the fallen souls back home, back to Godhead. And for this, he has given so many chances to the conditioned souls via the authoritative scriptures, his representatives, the personal incarnations also. Since he has no direct attachment to this material world, he is not to be blamed for its creation. Okay. Thank you much, Jews and Prabhujis, for joining. So we are discussing a really nice verse over here. So far we've seen Lord Brahma talking to Narad Muni, his son, and talking to him about the various incarnations of the Lord, the Leela incarnations, and talking to him about the relevance of each. And what we are to learn from the not just the various leelas, but the Lord's interactions in all of these leelas, and what was the reason behind all of that. We heard a little bit about how the jivas are responsible for their own deeds yesterday, and also how the Lord introduced, how Lord Brahma mentioned a little bit about the impersonal side of the Lord and his attributes in the verse yesterday. So today is a continuation of that, and the verse is very nicely divided into two main sections. So the first part, it talks about how the Lord is the cause, the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes, and everything that happens is because of him. And he's everywhere, he knows it all. And the second part of the verse touches upon, and it's also in the pub, but it touches upon how, despite the fact that the Lord is the cause of all causes, and but he's aloof from all of that. He might have his incarnations and his incarnations, his representatives coming into this material world, and doing the work that they need to do on behalf of the Lord. But he himself is aloof from all of that, despite being the cause of all causes, despite knowing everything. And ultimately, all that happens to the jivas in this material world, how we really should not be blaming the Lord for everything. We can go back to saying, oh, you know, he's the cause of everything, but ultimately we need to take some responsibility for all that happens to us, the individual jivas. We need to take accountability for that. So these are some of the points that are touched upon in the verse today. So I thought the very nice way to start with all of this is to start with the story of a pure devotee, and how all of this relates to a pure devotee as well. Despite being a pure devotee, how each person is responsible for their own for whatever happens to them. So I start with one of Krishna's favorite devotees, Sudama, his childhood friend. So one of the pastimes of the Lord and Sudama is when they were children, as kids, in the ashram of Sandipani Muni, who was their guru. Once they were sent by Sandipani Muni to the forest to gather some wood and everything for a sacrifice. Sandipani Muni's wife had packed some lovely chickpeas for them, which she gave to Sudama, and said, should you get hungry, please have this and also share it with Krishna. Which Sudama said, okay, fine. Now again, in the fire in the forest, it got quite late, and they had to actually stay back that night in the forest because they were held back because of something. And Sudama got very hungry, and he ate all the chickpeas. And when Krishna asked him that, do you have anything to eat, or has something been given to you? Sudama denied. He said, no. So Krishna didn't eat anything. Sudama ate his part of the food, and also Krishna's part of the food. And Krishna, being Krishna, he knew it. He knew that Sudama had it. So we see Krishna knows everything. And after Sudama did not give him the food, despite Krishna asking him, Krishna told Sudama that, you are going to hanker, or you're going to struggle to get food because of this, because you failed to share food. Sudama had always come from a poor family. But to grow up into, a Brahmin, and then having a family and become really, he was very, very poor. He became extremely poor. He didn't even have food to give to his children, his family, to maintain his family. And this is something that happened as a consequence of the fact that he did not want to share his food with Krishna. Now, Krishna knew it all. And that is the reason he asked Sudama for the food. It's not more out of, why that food was not given to him. And just to test, just to see Sudama, what he says. And that was a direct reaction of Sudama, not growing up to become and becoming more poor as the days went by. But again, Krishna, when he was the king, he knew about Sudama, the fact that his friend, being a great devotee, was suffering so badly, was so very poor. So Krishna does send his men to, when Sudama was not at home, to kind of tell his wife, and in a very, very indirect way, as to, why doesn't your husband go and talk to Krishna? He's a great friend of your husband. Why doesn't he do that? Obviously, Krishna knew that Sudama himself would never, ever approach him for money or to help him. He was too great a devotee to even ask him. He was happy the way he was, and he was thinking, this is how the Lord wants me to be. This is what he has given me, and I'm not going to ask him anything. It was only when, Krishna sends somebody to prod his wife a bit, and then his wife tells Sudama, and then Sudama agrees to take some chip fries and go to Krishna, and we know the rest. We know how Krishna was overjoyed to see him and served him personally, even washed his dirty feet, and then really enjoyed eating the chip fries so much. I mean, he wanted to eat everything, so much so that Lakshmi Devi, whose mother Rukmini was nobody but the goddess Fortune, she had to stop him, saying, you have to stop, otherwise we will owe everything to Stama. Give him a lot, but don't give him everything. You have to also look after your other subjects. So we see from this very pastime, we see two things. One, Krishna knows everything, whether it's Sudama not wanting to share his food with him, or the fact that as a grown-up, Sudama was really suffering in poverty. Krishna knew everything, and his heart goes out to his devotee, whether the devotee goes against him or whether the devotee remains with him and becomes a great devotee. Krishna knows it all. But the second, as we see, what the second part of this verse tells us, that we mustn't blame Krishna for everything. Sudama had a direct reaction to his actions. He had a karmic reaction to what he did. So we must take some responsibility for what happens to us. We must take all responsibilities for what happens to us. But what we mustn't do is not blame Krishna about it, for what we have done. So these are the two things that this verse is highlighting again, that Krishna is everywhere, cause of all causes, but we also must take responsibility for our actions. So we know that this material world is according to the plan of the Supreme Lord, and also according to the desire of the living entities. The jivas desired to lord over the world. They used them, their free will. They wanted to be the master of themselves, and so that they can enjoy their independence, and to facilitate the living beings in the Lord creates this material world. But at the same time, the Lord is always eager for these material jivas to go back to him. So Krishna himself, he himself never leaves Vrindavan. He never takes a step out of Vrindavan. Krishna tells us he doesn't want to. So he has his expansions, and he has his incarnations, and he has his personal associates who come into the material world. He creates, as we have read before, he has Mahavishnu, who glances over the material energy, activates, and that the Mahatattva happens, and the material things come into being, and how the jivas enter the material world. Now, the phenomenon, the material world, that is perceived through our senses in the material world. However, the nominal world, and the word nominal comes from the Latin word mysterious, something we just really don't understand, something which is not fully clear, as mentioned in the purport today. So the nominal is something which is very clear. So that is the eternal. So the eternal, the supreme personality of God, or the Param Sattva, the absolute truth, that is something which is never absolutely clear to us, because we do not have the senses in this material body, or as us in this material world, to be able to perceive the Lord as he is. The Lord is personally involved in everything, directly or indirectly, whether it is, taking up the chariot in the battlefield and rushing towards Bhishma Dev because he was so angry with Bhishma Dev, who was, throwing arrows upon arrows to Arjuna, and Krishna forgot about his own vow that he was never going to take up the astra or any weapon in the battlefield. Krishna forgot about his vow in Kali Yuga that he's not going to take up any weapon, and he wanted to kill Madai when he was responsible for Nityananda Prabhu's injury, he forgets about his vows. So sometimes he personally takes action, but he also indirectly does that through these expansions and his associates. He himself, whether it is directly or indirectly, never touches the material. He remains aloof from all of that. The material energy does not touch him at all. But ultimately, he makes arrangements to remind us all of our spiritual existence through the repeated births and deaths in that cycle, through the repeated flow of happiness and distress in this material world. And Maya, as we know, is a great devotee of the Lord. She is the external energy of the Lord, and she serves the Lord by reminding the jivas and taking them through this ups and downs in life. And we understand when the happiness is there and the jivas think this is something is very attractive, something is really nice. And, I like doing this and I'm perfect. And Maya is only tricking them. Maya is very attractive. And why shouldn't Maya be attractive? Because Maya is a part of Krishna and Krishna is the all attractive. So no wonder in the material world, Maya is so attractive to people because we are just looking at a potency of Krishna. And it comes from the original supreme attractive, the all attractive. So no wonder the material energy and Maya is so attractive to us, But in the positive sense, when we look at the nature around us, we see the beauty around us. We are reminded that all of the beauty we see in nature, in jivas, in the various ways it's reflected in this world, whether it's the sunrise, the sunset, the flowers, the bees, the birds, the hills, the valleys, or whatever we see. We are reminded that it's only but a tiny spark of the true attractiveness of Krishna. So we are reminded of all of that, and we are reminded that there is that hand of Krishna everywhere. So when the verse reminds us that Krishna is everywhere and Krishna takes personal attention for anyone and everyone and anything and everything, we can see how he does that. We can see that all-pervading nature of Krishna, but we can also see the very personal nature of Krishna. And it will be incomplete, as we were talking about it the other day. It is incomplete to understand Krishna as just the all-pervading. It is incomplete to understand and think of Krishna as only the Paramatma inside us. As we said, Krishna is, if you compare Krishna to the sun, just the sun's rays is not complete. Just identifying the sun as a sun disk is not complete. But to understand what exactly is the sun in the sun planet and the fact that the entire sun planet, it's in its totality, it encompasses the sun planet, the things in the sun planet, the qualities of the sun planet, of which the sun's rays is one of the qualities, of which the shape of the sun is one of the qualities. But knowing the sun planets in its entirety, that's when we get to know the personal sun planet. And that is what Krishna is in itself. The Krishna is the true identity of Krishna as Bhagavan. So we see when Lord Brahma says that Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. There's a reason for him to say that. There's a reason for Lord Brahma to say that, he is Ishvara. He's not just Ishvara, he's Paramishvara. He's not a god, he's not just a demigod. He's the Param, he's the topmost, he's the god of all gods, and he's the origin of everything. Ete cham sakala pumsa Krishnastupa to Bhagavan Swayam, as we see in the 3rd chapter of the 1st canto, verse 28, that he is the origin of everything. So we see the overall Krishna, he's everywhere, but he's also very, very personal. We'll see later on in the Bhagavatam that Maharaj Nimi, he talks to the 9 Yogendras or the rishis and inquires about the workings of this illusory energy Maya, which encompasses us in this material world. And the rishis tell him that rather than asking about the material energy, why doesn't he ask about where the material energy comes from, and more importantly, how to get out of this material energy. And the yogis tell him, you can only get out of this material energy by having a personal relationship with Krishna. Without that, it's impossible. Okay, you can become, as the verse yesterday was touching a bit about the impersonal energy of the Lord, the Brahman. You can, want to just be one with the Lord and be liberated, but that would not make you understand the Lord completely, because our natural constitution is Nitya Das of Krishna, that personal connection with Krishna. And that is what we need to understand why Lord Brahma is telling Narad Muni over and over again that the Lord is everywhere, the Lord is the cause of all causes, but the Lord is also very personal. Okay, so that is the connection that we need to have with Krishna all the time, and that is what when we are being told again that Krishna is the cause of all causes, we need to remember. However, saying that, we are also being reminded in the verse today that we mustn't blame Krishna about everything. It may seem that there are many remote or immediate causes of distress for jivas in this material world, and we know of the 3 types of miseries: adibhautik, adhyatmic, adibhautik, and adidaivik. The 3 types of miseries we bring, miseries that we bring upon ourselves because of us, miseries that happen to us because of others or things around us, and miseries that are given to us by the devas, like natural calamities. But we may think that but the devas they are working under the instructions of the Lord. Whatever is happening to us, if you are saying Krishna is the cause of all causes, then why are you blaming me for anything that happens to me? If I'm doing something good, that is because Krishna is allowing me to do some good. If I am doing anything bad, then Krishna is allowing me to do bad. So if Krishna is the ultimate witness and the ultimate sanctioner of everything that is happening, and everything is happening directly under his supervision, then why should I take responsibility of this? Okay, so Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita 9.4, and which is also mentioned in the purport today, Krishna does say that everything directly or indirectly in them unmanifested forms or in their manifested forms, Krishna takes care of everything. But what he says more is that he remains aloof from that. He remains aloof from the material energy. So then the conditioned souls might say that why am I being blamed for everything, and why am I going through all of this? So if this material world is Dukalayam Shashvata, so if this material world is a prison, then why am I being kept in this prison when everything that I do is directly under the supervision of the Lord? And that is where we are reminded again that yes, we are, but we mustn't forget that we are also individual jivas. Now, as individual jivas, we have the free will. We are all part of that Supreme Satchidananda, and the Supreme Satchidananda is completely independent. He is completely independent to do everything and anything. And being part and parcel of that Supreme Being, even if we are scattered from him, we still have our soul has the same quality as the Supreme Being. It's like the candle that we talk about so many times. It's like the origin is the first candle, but the other candles lighted from the original candle, they have the same quality. Quantity-wise, we are nowhere near the Lord, but quality-wise, our souls are as Satchidananda as the Supreme Satchidananda. And our souls, we also have that free will that is given to that is so much a part of Krishna himself. So with that free will, Krishna does not want to impede on that free will, because we don't because we talked about connection with Krishna. The entire reason why he allowed to give us this material world is because he didn't want to force anything on us. Yes, some of the jivas wanted to go away from him. That's fine. That, Krishna facilitated that by giving us the material world. He even gave us the perfect knowledge with which we can live properly in this material world. It is not his fault that that knowledge got convoluted over the ages and we come to Kali Yuga where, almost everything is wrong. So it's not his fault. But with that free will, we have chosen to do certain things which are completely against dharma, which is completely against what is defined as the proper thing to do to maintain that spiritual nature of our souls. It's like the quicksand. The more we do things in this material world, the more wrong we do, the more we sink. So with our free will, we have to choose for the better rather than choose for the worse. And this is what we have to identify. So this is not the fault of Krishna. And the example given in the purport is that of a prison house, that the king may be the ultimate ruler, and he may be overlooking, and he may have the jurisdiction of the prison which comes under him. But he can get into the prison and come out of it. He is not bound by the cages because he overlooks all of that. And he has appointed people under him who overlooks the people who are in the prison, in the cages. Similarly, if we think of this material world as a prison, and Krishna has appointed his representatives who are looking after the jivas who are in this material world doing wrongs and be bound by karma, by karmic reactions, and returning to the cycle of birth and death over and over again because of their karmic reactions. They are bound in this prison. So Krishna's representatives are looking after that, but Krishna himself is not responsible for that. The karmic reactions are being accrued, whether it's good karma or bad karma, is being accrued by the jivas themselves. And they are bound by it. And how does karma work? We know that karma doesn't work, one doesn't cancel the other. that we do a lot of good karma and that will take care and get rid of all the bad karma. It doesn't work like that. We have a lot of good karma, it goes up. We have a lot of bad karma, that goes up as well. And unless and until we are able to get rid of all both and are completely karma free, we cannot go back to Godhead. So we can, with a lot of bad karma, we can go down to the hellish planets or to a lower form of life. With a lot of good karma, we can go up to the higher planets, but we have to get rid of that karma. And how can we do that? By attributing or dovetailing all our actions towards Krishna. So living in Krishna sansar. So if we attribute everything to Krishna, whether it's in our daily life, we don't have to become a sannyasi. We don't have to wear saffron clothes and, go to the Himalayas to pray and leave everything. As Krishna says to Arjuna in chapter 2, he reminds Arjuna of Swadharma. He reminds Arjuna that, if you don't do your swadharma, your own responsibility, that is not just bad, Arjuna, that is abominable. Because that is not what Krishna wants. And often we think how people are misguided. People think that, if we get into religion, if we become a devotee, if we practice devotional service, there's every chance that we are going to, get so detached from the material, from the social life, that we would become a sannyasi. But that is anything but the truth. Krishna never advises us of leaving our responsibilities. Krishna says to Arjuna that yes, people who are liberated already are people who are able to completely detach themselves from anything material. They are, they can become a sannyasi because they have gotten to that stage. And it's extremely rare that people get into that stage. And even, it's so rare in Kali Yuga. And later on, we've seen in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna saying just how rare it is to completely detach oneself from the material life, from society, from family. However, Krishna says if you are in family life, you are in Grihastha or whichever ashram or whichever varna, whichever ashram you're in, it is absolutely possible to dovetail our duties towards Krishna. So that how do we, as soon as we dovetail everything towards Krishna, immediately we have that personal connection with Krishna. We just don't think that, okay, fine, let me just practice renouncing everything and become one with God. That doesn't give us anything. But as soon as we say, okay, Krishna, I am in this family, I have this friend circle, I have my work colleagues, and I thank you because you have given them to me. And I know that they are all your children. You're personalizing Krishna, you're seeing Krishna in them. You're seeing Krishna in the food you eat as your prasadam. You're thanking Krishna for the shelter that he has given you. You're thanking Krishna for the fact that you're able to wake up each morning and go about doing your daily duties throughout the day. So it is remembering Krishna at all times and never forgetting Krishna. That's what Krishna wants. Krishna doesn't want anything else. He just wants that personal love from us. And that is how he's so personal. He's always with us. He's there in our heart at all times. When we show that love towards us, he guides us from within. We know that there are 3 types of gurus in our life. We have our Shiksha gurus, we have our Diksha gurus, and we also have our Chaita gurus. Chaita gurus from Chit, from our heart. Krishna is there himself. We can learn from our Shiksha gurus, we can learn from our Diksha guru, but we also are guided from within by our Chaita guru, by Krishna himself. And as Kapila Deva says to his mother Devahuti, that, in Srimad Bhagavatam, which we'll learn later on, that this material world, it's an ocean of misery. and it is comprised of the tears of the fallen conditioned souls. This material world is an ocean of misery, Kapil Deva says, and it is comprised of the tears of the conditioned souls. We have no idea, no conception of how much suffering we have in this material world. The happiness we think we have is just the absence of distress. But we incur all those distresses only because of our own karma. So if only we can channelize all our actions, any karma, a jiva cannot stay without karma. We do action. We are parts of Krishna, and Krishna cannot. His activity is not to stay idle. He created the whole creation only because he is fond of action. He wanted that exchange of rasas with the with the jivas, with the other conditions, with the other souls. So as having the same qualities of Krishna as the super soul, we know we cannot stay without action. So why not channelize that action towards Krishna? Only then can we be a free bird, even being in this prison of a material world. So we have to understand that this prison is very much our own creation, and we cannot blame Krishna about it. It's not Krishna's fault that we get a reaction for something that we do. We have to take responsibility for that. For anything small, anything bad, we can get an immediate reaction sometimes that sometimes slaps you. You want to slap him. So you slap someone slaps you back. Immediate karmic reaction. We can get a karmic reaction for something which we do, in our earlier days, and we get a karmic reaction later on in life. We may get a karmic reaction after lifetimes, as we saw what happened to Dhritarashtra and Gandhari. They had killed insects or, birds' eggs lifetimes ago. And then they had to accrue enough good karma to give birth to 100 sons. They had to have all those lives just to get the good karma to be able to beget 100 sons. And then they got reactions from that bad karma they had accrued, where all those 100 sons were killed. Because one of them had killed 100 insects deliberately. The other had killed, 100 birds' eggs. So both had killed 100, jivas or 100 souls, and they just got their reactions to that. So when Gandhari was blaming Krishna, Krishna told him that, you cannot. When Dhritarashtra wanted to know why this has happened to him, he was also responsible for blinding some of those insects. So we get anything good, we sow, we get the results immediately. So we mustn't really blame Krishna for it. We see how Krishna, but what we have to thank is that Krishna loves us all. That's the teaching we need to take from all of this. Krishna wants to take us back to the spiritual world. And true love in spiritual nature connects the soul with Krishna. There is no force involved. Krishna doesn't want to force us into anything. That he could just force something and then just forcefully make the souls do what he wants and take us back to the spiritual world. But he doesn't want to. He wants the souls to understand. By coming across these distresses lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, once the souls will realize and understand what the true purpose of life is. And then with that free will that Krishna gives them, that soul will choose the spiritual rather than choosing to remain in this material prison. And Krishna, just like Krishna told Arjuna right at the end of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna, I've told you all the absolute truth. Now it is your choice. You can choose to, to do or act according to dharma, or you can choose to be compassionate. In chapter 1 of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was overwhelmed with compassion. And he just said, I'm not going to fight. So Krishna says, now you know that it's our soul, you're fighting souls, you're not fighting material bodies. You know that the souls are indestructible, they are eternal. And even if you do kill your relatives, you're being unhappy of killing Bhishma Deva, your grandfather who you love so much, even if you do kill them, they'll get a better body. If they're devotees, they will get a higher body. They might even return to the spiritual world. So there's a win-win situation, Arjuna. Just do at your action, your duty, and attribute everything to me. Fight adharma. So that is what our learning is. We have to walk on the path of the righteousness of dharma as is prescribed by Krishna, as the laws given to Krishna when he made this material world. If we do not follow that path, if we follow into, the path of adharma, we can't blame Krishna for what is happening to us. We can't say that Krishna has put us into in this material world, in this prison. So it's the natural propensity of the jivas to have that victim mentality, that we are the victim, and keep pointing fingers to others. Some things happen to me, the first reaction is that is somebody else's fault. It is not my fault. I did this. So this victim mentality, or getting defensive immediately, is what is our problem. So this is what we need to come out of. One of the quotes I came across recently in a Krishna class was where Prabhuji was talking about Chanakya Pandit. And Chanakya Pandit, being the great wise man, he told that, in the morning, one should associate with gamblers. In the afternoon, one should associate with women and anything and everything to do with women. And at night, one should associate with thieves. Now, you might wonder, why is Chanakya Pandit, being such a great wise man, is saying this? Or in other words, what he meant is that, in the morning, associate with gamblers, or in other words, he was referring to the Mahabharata. Associate yourself with the teachings of Mahabharata. Okay, how to fight adharma, not be, pulled into adharma. In the afternoon, associate with women and matters of the women, or in other words, associate with the Ramayana, where the woman became the reason of a battle between dharma and adharma. So Ram, he ignored everything, he was leaving Ravan to himself. But as soon as Ravan touched the sanctity of a woman, that is where Ram said, that's it. This is the limit, and and the whole battle ensues. But we also learn from Ram as the Maryada Purushottam, the perfect person who gives us the example how to live in this material world. And then at night, here Chanakya Pandit says, associate with the thieves. And who is the greatest thief? The greatest thief of all is nobody but our very own Krishna. Right from being a markanchor, stealing butter, to stealing the hearts of the gopis, to stealing, stealing their clothes, who is the greatest thief? We immediately think of Krishna. So we learn from the different teachings, and can we see we are taught in various different ways. In Mahabharata, we are given the teachings of the right and the wrong, the Bhagavad Gita, the absolute truth, the truth of the soul, and the versus the material body. In Ramayana, we are taught about how to be a true person, a perfect character in this material world. and live in the path of Dharma. And by Krishna's life, we see how very personal he is. Through the various leelas that he do, how very personal he is, and how much, not just that, just how much he loves his devotees, and how much he would do anything, as he says, as we see, Aham Bhakta Paradin, he says to Durvasa Muni, when the Sudarshan Chakra chases Durvasa Muni, and Durvasa Muni is running away when in the pastime of Ambarish Maharaj. So this is what we have to remember about Krishna. This is what we must associate us with. We mustn't just blame Krishna for being responsible for the distresses. So we must associate with the right things. And then we are perfect in this material world. We may have rebelled and got out of the spiritual world, but if we are able to live well in this material world, Krishna will take us back. We will become eligible to go back to Godhead. So we see a very, very beautiful. I'll conclude with a couple of beautiful verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 25, verse 1. Shaunaka Muni talks about Kapil Deva again, and he says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapil Muni by his internal potency. And why did he do so? Because he descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. So we go back to what the verse tells us right at the beginning. Krishna comes in his various incarnations or through his associates. Why does he come? To save us. To save us and give us that transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the human race. He provides us with the material things, but he tells us how to disassociate from that material and detach from the material and attach to Krishna. Okay, so through these shastras, through the knowledge given to us through the gurus, we have to understand the true teaching of Krishna. And he continues in the next verse that no one is more, so the master of the Vedas, Krishna, to hear about Krishna actually gives pleasure to our senses. That is what gives us the most happiness. We don't get happiness in this material world from the material things because they're all temporary. And that, no matter how much food, our favorite food we eat, the clothes we wear, we go on holiday, they all come to an end after a while. But our senses get that eternal pleasure by hearing about Krishna, chanting his names, and that is what, or talking about him, or even listening to Krishna, because Krishna starts talking to us. Krishna would love to talk to us. So we see so many elevated and exalted devotees. They go and they talk to Krishna. And that is the reason, whether it's, whatever distresses they go through in life, they are always in bliss. And how can we have that connection with Krishna? By what Krishna says right at the end of Bhagavad Gita, by surrendering Sarva Dharman Parityaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Vraja. Just surrender unto me. Just surrender unto me, and that is all you need to do. And I will love you as you love me, I will love you. Just surrender unto me. And we see how Krishna shows this surrendering through the pastimes of so many of his devotees. We see how they are able to surrender completely to Krishna. Right? We were talking about Mahabharata. We see how Draupadi in the assembly, she tried to hold on to her sari. She couldn't. And she asked help from everybody in the assembly. They didn't. Only when she put up her hand, she said, I can't do anything. Krishna, save me. She put up her hands, and that is when Krishna incarnated as the cloth. We see so many examples, whether it's right from Gajendra to the other devotees. We see surrendering, it gives us everything and is the door for us to go back to spiritual world. And I end with how the surrendering means so much to Krishna, because that surrendering translates to pure love to Krishna. We see in the pastime of the gopis in Vrindavan, where they were once bathing in Yamuna, and they leave their clothes on the banks of Yamuna, and Krishna steals those clothes. And then the gopis had to come out of the water and come to him and ask Krishna for those clothes to give back to them. So what do we actually understand from that? That yes, Krishna, always being the naughty Krishna, he was playing a prank. But what was Krishna trying to tell them? That you have to leave everything, every possible material covering that you have. Come with your pure, bare form to me, and that is how you surrender. Surrender to me without any inhibitions, without any covering. When you understand that there is no other way, there is nothing that can save me, nothing material that can cover me, and you come to me and you say, you surrender unto me, that is when I give you the protection. That is when there is that personal connection with Krishna that happens. And you immediately, Krishna takes charge of everything. Okay, so that is how we surrender, when we know that there is nothing that in this world that can save us. We have to get out of that victim mentality that Krishna is responsible. No, Krishna is actually responsible for taking us out of this material misery. We are in this prison. Krishna is the cause of all causes. He can do anything and everything, but he has that respect for us to give us that free will, to utilize that in the way we want. And if we utilize that to channel our forces towards loving Krishna, towards surrendering to him, that is when we are able to come out of this prison of a material world. Okay. So I conclude over here. If I've made any mistakes, please do correct me, but that is what we understand from this verse. So we go back to just summarizing what this verse tells. It gives us these three messages primarily: that the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. Everything happens for him. He is directly and indirectly responsible for everything that happens. He sanctions everything, either directly or through his incarnations or his associates, but he himself remains aloof. The Supreme Lord gives us the freedom of that free will to do the right or the wrong. And because we utilize that free will in the way we want, very frequently we are bound in this prison, in this material world, because of our own karma. But we mustn't blame Krishna for that. Krishna is not responsible for that. And ultimately, how can we, rather than blaming Krishna, how can we come out of this material world? By surrendering unto Krishna. And what does that surrender mean? Having that faith in Krishna, having that true love, unconditional love for Krishna. Ahaituki apratihata, continuous, unmotivated love for Krishna. That is what Krishna wants, and that is going to take us out of this prison. So I conclude over here. Again, if there are any mistakes, any corrections, any reflections, kindly share or please correct me.
Thank you very much, Mataji, for an excellent session today, as always. Are there any questions or comments from the group? I know we have exhausted our time, but we can take a question or two or a comment. Okay, we can hand over to Parth Prabhu. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Are you able to?
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. No, it's a really very nice and interesting class always, Panchali Mataji. And I have also no question. or no comment also. It is very nice. As usual, you told that is the most thing is the surrender and devotional service is the only way to understand Krishna and to come to closer to the Krishna also. And already you discussed that Krishna is the everything. He is the all possessive, omniscient, omnipresent, and the creator of everything. So that is a very nice Mataji for your class. Also, I request everyone, please unmute yourself and chant Hare Krishna mantra for glorification of Hare Krishna Panchali Mataji. Please, everyone. Yes. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Krishna,
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 Krishna Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare Hare, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama, Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama,
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare.
Vancha Kalpa Tarurvacha
Yashan
Kripa
Kapa Sindhu Bhai Vacha
Nampa Vanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo
Namo Namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai,
Grace Panchali Kar Mataji ki Jai.
Jai,
Bol Hare Krishna.
Hare
All
Krishna.
glories to the assembled devotees. Hare
Hare
Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji. Please.
Prabhuji, tomorrow we'll have Bhakti Vriksha class, yeah?
No, Mataji, tomorrow we shall postpone because we have some program in a Ram Mandir.
Okay,
This needless, he requested all the devotee of ISKCON.
okay, okay.
I think last week as well, last Saturday, I logged in, but last Saturday there wasn't any Bhakti Vriksha was there.
They had gone for the Rath Yatra in Nairobi.
Yeah, okay, no worries. Okay, no worries. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. So tomorrow there won't be any class, Hare Krishna.